Hey guys, welcome to our Elevate online experience. If you've been here before, welcome back, and if it's your first time, enjoy. Give us a subscribe, a like, or a share if you're enjoying our content so far. The songs today are once again from our mates at Gateway Church and our very own Elevate Church. If you're enjoying it so far, feel free to give us a shout out down bottom.
So when trouble hits and difficulties come, that we can sing that and bring that into your presence, God, because you're in control. We thank you for that, Lord. Trouble won't throw me, won't break me, won't scare me no more. Fear must have thought I was faithless when it came for my heart. 'Cause I got a song that will never die. I know your love is the reason why I sing the night into the morning. I sing my fear into your praise. I sing my soul into your presence. Whenever I say your name, so let the devil know not today. Tell me, did the enemy panic as you took up that cross? Tell me, did the darkness cry mercy as you rolled back that rock? 'Cause I know your life is a life in mine, and I know your love is the reason why. The night into the morning, I sing my fear into your praise. I sing my soul into peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break. At your name still, call the sea to still, the rage in me to still every wave. At your name, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, breathe, call these lungs to live, call these lungs to sing once again. I will praise, breathe, call these bones to live, call these lungs to sing once again. I will praise Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, and Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is a light forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is a light forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. And Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, and Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus.
We've got a really cool series coming up today. It's called If Money Talked. This is the first week. Enjoy.
Thank you for calling Money. I'm here to give you financial advice to make your life better and you better at life. This is Money. How can I help you? Karen, what? Get out of here. Karen, we have not talked since your piggy bank days. How are you? Hello, this is Money. It's a great day to be green. Yes, the environment is important too. I was referring to green, the color of my shirt, which you cannot see, and the fact that I am the embodiment of money. I should get better slogan. Absolutely, Kevin. I can tell you your net worth right now. It's nothing. Yeah, no, like 0.00. But listen, hey, even though you're technically worth nothing in like, dollars and cents, did I ever tell you how much our friendship means to me? It is this much. I don't know, Karen, at the end of the day, what's the real difference between the 10 and the 11 Pro X? Whoa, 3 lenses. We just have to tool around with your financial plan, but we can get it, all right? Yeah, your security code is 616. Oh, you just bought it just now, that was quick, okay. Well, can we talk about your new plan? Karen? Karen, hello? It's weird as if you hung up the moment I said plan. You spent $72.34. Can I just say, that's a lot of McFlurries for any one person, Listen, Sonia, I know we've been on the rocks, but I don't want to give up on us, okay? I'm just asking that you check up on me every now and again. If you don't talk to me, I can't help you. Leon, hey, oh my gosh. That's a lovely boat, man. A power boat for a power man, and that is you, buddy. Yeah, You want to buy it? That's a good joke. Oh, you're serious. Okay. Well, if we do want to go ahead with it, we're going to have to make some changes. So that probably means no more food, shelter, or water. Yeah. No, you're right. It's a gorgeous boat, just like you. Okay. All right. Well, I'll talk to you later. You bought that boat. Look, it's your money at the end of the day, but I'm just trying to give you advice to help your Washingtons become Lincolns. You feel me? And then those Lincolns can maybe one day become Hamiltons. And then those Hamiltons can become Ulysses S. Grants. That's the $50 bill. And then those Ulysses can become Benjamins. Woo, woo, woo! Oh man, Karen, you're the best. No, you are. No, you are. Man, I'm so glad we took the time to reconnect. Let's do it again sometime soon. How about tomorrow?
Hey, and welcome to our Elevate Online family. Great to have you with us from wherever in the world you're joining us. We have people joining us from South Korea, New Zealand, the UK, the US, other parts of Australia, and we'd certainly love to know where you're joining us from around the world. We consider you part of our Elevate family, and it's great to be able to connect this way each week. Hey, we're on a journey together, and we're about to open a new chapter of that journey today, in fact, by launching a brand new series, which you've just seen a little opening teaser for, and it's called If Money Talked. Now, I'm aware that talking about money can make some people nervous. And in fact, in my family growing up, money was a taboo subject. It certainly was something that we weren't even allowed to talk about. And so, wherever you are, whatever your background might be, or whatever your kind of history with talking about money, I'm just going to put out a friendly invitation to you to put on your big boy pants and your big girl pants and just come along on this journey over the next 3 weeks with this series, If Money Talked, because it's actually a far too important subject for us to avoid. It's something that permeates most of our life, in fact, and it's certainly something that permeates all of our lives. So it shouldn't come as a surprise to learn that Jesus talked about money and stuff pretty much more than any other subject that he talked about. Depending on how you slice and dice it, he taught between 35 and 38 stories, or they're called parables in some cases, about the kingdom of God, talking about what the kingdom of God is like and what we're to do in the meantime. And of those 35 to 38, 16 of them were about money and stuff. And so if Jesus felt it was that important, then it's certainly a topic that we should lean into and definitely not pull back from. So we're calling this If Money Talked, and it's kind of the opposite of how we normally view money. Normally it's us telling our money what to do. Here money, go and buy some groceries. Here money, go and pay my mortgage. Here money, how about you head over there and park yourself in savings? And over these 3 weeks, we're just going to flip that script and have money talk to us. Now, I get it. that notion of money, of your money talking to you, might terrify you, because you may already know something of what your money might say to you. Your money might say to you, "You bought what?" Your money might say to you, "Do you really think that was a wise thing to spend money on?" Or sometimes your money might speak to you like a disappointed parent. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. But you might be pleasantly surprised that what Jesus talked about with regards to money and stuff was very much about being for you, about wanting something for you and for me. And so if money talked to us and money was our friend and in our favor, then you might be pleasantly surprised to learn that what Jesus had to say about money and stuff very much lined up with what money might say to us if we understood that Jesus wanted the best for us and always wants the best for us. So I'm going to dive right into one of the stories that Jesus taught about money and stuff, and encourage you to grab your smart device nearby, open up the Bible app, and you can join me in Luke chapter 16, and I'm going to read from the New International Version. So Luke chapter 16, the New International Version. A little bit of backstory. Luke wasn't somebody who was a follower of Jesus while Jesus was on this earth. In fact, he was a medical doctor. And after Jesus had died and rose again and ascended back into heaven, the stories about Jesus' life and what he did and the miracles he did, the stories about what Jesus taught, they were circulating verbally. And Luke took a particular interest in this, and he pretty much downed tools from his doctor's work and picked up the tools of an investigative journalist and went around documenting these eyewitness accounts of what Jesus had done, to whom and where, and of what Jesus taught. And so this is one of the documented eyewitness accounts of what Jesus, of one of the 16 stories Jesus used to teach us about money and stuff from a kingdom of God perspective. So, verse 1, let's dive in. Jesus told his disciples, "There was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting the rich man's possessions. So the rich man called the manager in and asked him, 'What is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be my manager anymore.' In other words, you're fired." And the manager said to himself, "What should I do now? My master's taken away my job. And look, I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm too proud to beg, ashamed to beg. And look, I know what I'll do, so that when I finally lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses." So this is what he did. He called in each one of his master's debtors. He asked the first, "How much do you owe my master?" "Well, 900 gallons of olive oil," he replied. The manager told him, "Take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 450. And then he asked the second, "Well, so how much do you owe?" 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. He told him, "Take your bill and make it 800. And I'm just picturing, Jesus is telling this story to an audience which potentially had a kind of broad cross-section of listeners. And wondering if there was two groups of people in the audience. The one group of wealthy people who may have been outraged at this manager's, rogue handling of his master's affairs, getting angry, like, you can't do that. That's not his decision to make. And then I wonder if there's not another group in the audience that are thinking, you go, man, like people who didn't have much and they owed others, and they'd be thinking, I'd love someone to throw me a bone like that. And so here's this tension. Here's this tension that the manager had been mismanaging the master's money. He was fired and just given a little bit of lag time so he could kind of audit the manager's work and make sure everything was squared away before he sent him packing. And in that window between being given his termination notice and what would ultimately be the final day on that job, the manager went rogue. The manager took matters into his own hands and started making financial decisions with someone else's stuff. So it shouldn't surprise you that Jesus' next two words were simply this: the manager, this guy's been going rogue. Some people are happy, the ones that are getting the discount. And he's been trying to do it hush hush, quickly come and sit here, quickly write that down, change the numbers on, fudge the numbers on the bill. And now the master, it's like the Jaws theme music starts playing in the background. The master. And look, I'm picturing the audience thinking, oh yeah, this guy is busted. Well, not quite. Jesus said the master commended the dishonest manager because he'd acted shrewdly. The master actually was like, you know what? Well played. And look, it's possible Jesus' audience was confused at this point. I mean, why in the world would the master commend somebody for dishonest practices? Maybe you're confused about that too. Is the point that Jesus is making that we should go rogue in our financial decisions, that we should make financial decisions against our boss's wishes, that we should make financial decisions that our spouse doesn't know about or doesn't agree with? Is that the point? Is that the question? Well, at this moment, Jesus set it up. He's the master storyteller. He set it up so that there would be this tension. There would be the master commended the manager's dishonest behavior. And at that intersection of history, Jesus actually zoomed out from the story and zoomed in on the lesson. And this is how he taught the lesson. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. So I tell you, the people of the light, I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it's gone, you'll be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Now, little Bible college pro tip here. Jesus' stories, there was always two characters featured, and they weren't called this, but there were characters that one represented who God is, and the other character or characters represented who we are in the story. And so in case you missed it, the master in this story is God, and the manager in this story is us. And look, sorry for playing Captain Obvious, but it's critical to understanding the big idea, and not just the big idea of this story, but actually the big idea of how Jesus wants us to understand how this whole money management thing works. It's that God is the master. God is the owner of everything. God's the owner of the money and the stuff that we're blessed with. We're not the owners. We're the managers. And because we're the managers, we're called to actually use God's money and stuff, the money and stuff that He entrusts us with, use it in a different way than the world, as Jesus put it, the people not of the light, in a different way than they would. And so the big idea of this story that Jesus told isn't to go rogue. The big idea is that the master, God, commended the manager because he took advantage of the limited time and the limited opportunities to use the resources that were entrusted to him to actually benefit other people, to actually invest in other people. And this is the banger, that we have limited time on this earth. We have limited opportunities on this earth. And the master, the owner, he calls us to make the most of the limited time and the limited opportunities, to use money and stuff, to use some of the money and stuff that we're entrusted with, to invest in other people, to make an eternal difference. And I probably don't need to tell you, if you're listening to this from a Western culture point of view, that this principle, this big idea, to not just to take advantage of the limited time and opportunities we have with some of what God's entrusted to us to invest in other people to make an eternal difference. I probably don't need to tell you that that stands in sharp contrast to pretty much Western culture's perspective on money and stuff. And that's why Jesus told the story, because he understands, and he wants us to understand, that the kingdom of God doesn't work the same as the kingdom of earth. That what God's called us to and how he's called us to live as we approach and are used to build the kingdom of God is actually unapologetically, particularly in this case of money and stuff, in stark contrast to the culture that we live in. See, the culture we live in, when it comes to money and stuff, in Western society in particular, although many other societies have an aspirational trajectory towards this very same thing, is what I call the consumption assumption. And the consumption assumption, it's exactly what you think it means. It means that people, like in Western culture, assume that the purpose of making money and managing money is to use it all for our consumption. It's assuming that everything that comes to us is actually for us. That the point of earning is to facilitate the accumulation of more. And yet Jesus pushes back on that. And yeah, he's all for us paying bills and giving our kids an education and using money for some of what we would use it for in a very wise fashion. But he pushes back against using it all for our consumption. He pushes back against it being the focal point of our lives and us being the focal point of our money and our stuff. And if I was to distill the big idea down to one sentence, it would be this: that money can add meaning to your life, but it's not the meaning of life. And I'm pretty sure you know this, because at funerals, they don't talk about how much money and stuff the person had. In fact, the only time money gets some airplay in a funeral is if the person in the box perhaps used some of the money to make a meaningful difference in the lives of other people. And so here's a pro tip that I want to invite you to adopt. I want you to consider making this something that you do. That when you are entrusted with money and stuff, and that could be from your pay, that could be from some other ways, financial resources have come into your world. Ask the question, how can I use some of this as a means to do something meaningful? Because if the great knock-on of that is if you and I ask that question and act on it, how can I use some of this as a means to something meaningful? what happens is that our lives, we start to turn stuff into stories. Because stuff, you can't take it with you, but you can make an eternal impact, and those stories carry on throughout and beyond our lives. And when it comes to money, our best understanding at Elevate Church, and I learned this from someone with much bigger brains than I have. When it comes to money, and when it comes to investing in other people, when it comes to using some of what God's entrusted to us financially to invest in eternity, the way we understand it and the way we teach it is that the first 10% is both a goal and a minimum. So here's the deal. Throughout the Bible, God references this idea of bringing him the first and the best, and then he actually puts a number on it, the first 10%. In Jewish practice, they would call this the tithe, which just means tenth. Bring me the first tenth, the first and the best of everything you earn, of all of your increase. And we say this, that the first 10% is both a goal and a minimum. The first 10% is what God uses to resource the local church. And the reason that's first, and the reason that's the priority, is because we believe that the local church is the hope of the world. The local church that was established by Jesus, that is continued to be built by Jesus, that is being expanded throughout the world by Jesus, that is spreading the message of Jesus. That's the hope of the world. And any giving and all giving beyond our first 10% is built on the strength of the local church. And so when you give your first 10% into the local church, when we, and Louisa, my wife, and I do this every single pay period, every 2 weeks, first 10% to Elevate Church. We're not actually giving it to Elevate Church, we're giving it through Elevate Church. We're enabling and resourcing Elevate Church to actually reach people and build people. And so every single time I hear a story of transformation from one of our people at our Rivervale hub or one of the people from our online hub, when I hear a story of transformation, that's a part of our story too. That instantly becomes a part of our story. When I see and we see a first-time guest walk in the door here in Perth, or hear about a first-time person joining us online, that's part of our story. Their story is enabled by our giving, and that becomes a part of our story. Now, before you faint or freak out or switch off this broadcast, because I've said first 10%, and some of you are like, 10%? Are you kidding me? Here's the way we approach it. That building up to our first 10%, and then ultimately going beyond that, that's a journey. It's a faith journey. And if you're not yet ready to step up to 10%, then start where you're at and take one next step on your journey. So maybe you're at 0%. You haven't actually taken your first step to giving. Well, take the first step and try 1% and see what God does with that. If you're at 1%, maybe take a next step to 2 or 3. If you're at 3, take a next step to 5. Look, I can't dictate this. We certainly don't check up on you, even if we could, which we can't. But we want to encourage you to turn stuff into stories, and the first 10% is both a goal and a minimum. And the reason we say it's a goal is because we want to encourage people to orient a percentage of their finances, of their increase, into giving, and when they hit 10%, great, you've been on this journey. And yet your faith and our faith, it doesn't have to pull the handbrake on at 10%. That same faith journey, that can continue. And you can start to hit 11% and 12% and 15%. And so what we say is first 10% is both a goal and a minimum. That beyond our first 10%, there are other things. And we have some of them set up around Elevate Church. And again, Louisa and myself are invested in this. And every 2 weeks, we invest a percentage beyond our first 10%. One of those is called Building the Future. Building the Future is how we resource spaces and places. So let me give you a simple way that works. This camera that I'm speaking into, before COVID lockdown, we didn't have an online experience, and so we had to boot one up very, very quickly. And the giving into building the future enabled us to buy some, reasonably basic equipment, but good equipment, enough to put a high quality online experience together. And so because we've been giving consistently to building the future beyond our first 10% giving, equipment popped up. And because equipment popped up, we've been able to put together our online experience. And again, every single person that tunes in, their story becomes part of our story. We have another aspect of our giving beyond our first 10% called Elevate Global. Now, old school, you might have called this missions or something to that effect. We call it Elevate Global, and we partner with two organizations, Compassion Australia and Opportunity International Australia. And the big idea of working with these organizations is investing into babies, mums, young families to turn poverty into power. And you can go and check out the work of Compassion Australia and Opportunity International Australia for yourself. But again, anytime and every time, and through Compassion, we invest into a region of the Philippines. And through Opportunity International Australia, we invest into a region of Indonesia. Every time a story comes back from those regions via those organizations, those stories become part of our story. And again, it keeps going. The first 10% is both a goal and a minimum. We encourage people to consider child sponsorship, and we partner there with Compassion Australia, sponsoring kids in the Philippines, in the same region that our Elevate Global Giving partnership goes towards. And when those kids graduate from one year in school to the next, when they've got school books, when they've got clothing, when they've got food, when they've got access to medical equipment, when they're able to go to school, and those stories come back and they write letters, those stories become part of our story. And so our taking some of what God's entrusted to us financially and investing it into the lives of others, first 10% is a goal and a minimum. That's how we turn stuff into stories. And so we do that first 10%, Louisa and I, building the future, Elevate Global, some kids sponsored through Compassion Australia. Then, a few months ago, listen closely, a few months ago, I discovered that Louisa, my wife, had been embezzling money from our personal bank account. Yes, embezzling money from our personal bank account. Going rogue, a bit like the dishonest manager. Yep. Now, I manage the finances of our household, and I was not aware of this embezzling rogue behavior until a few months ago. Louisa came home from work and she said to me, she communicated to me that some people in our sphere, a family in our sphere, had run out of money. That the husband, he's self-employed, and his work flow, incoming work, had dried up for a period, and so their expenses had blown out way past their income, and they literally on that day had got to the point where they didn't have money for groceries for them and for their kiddos. And so Louisa was telling me this story, and I'm thinking, boy, that's horrible. It's horrible for anybody, especially people that of course. She said, yes. So anyway, I gave him $1,000, and I'm thinking to myself, that is fantastic. But where exactly did this $1,000 come from? I mean, I wasn't like angry, but I was curious because if Louisa had wanted to withdraw $1,000 from her bank account, we could have moved things around and likely made that happen. But she said, well, no, here's how that happened. Like about a year ago, I felt God say to me, start just putting a little bit of money away every week or every fortnight pay period. Just start putting a little bit of money away and build it up to $1,000 and just sit on that $1,000. Just sit on it and you'll know what I want you to do with it when the time comes. And so she did that. What she was doing on our fortnightly payday is on the way to work in the morning, she would stop by the automatic teller machine and withdraw an amount that she knew I wouldn't question. You know, and again, I wouldn't be angry, but I'm just like, what? No, amount I wouldn't question. You know, $20 here, $10 here, maybe $50 is pushing the threshold. And she sneakily embezzled $1,000. And then the moment she heard about this family in our sphere not having money for groceries, she drove straight to their house and she handed over $1,000. Now, yes, of course, I know what you're thinking. I need to be Louisa's friend too. Well, maybe you do. Or maybe you need to be like Louisa. Maybe that's something that you can do. Maybe you can put aside a little bit amount every week and just sit on it and have that available for these acts of generosity as and when the opportunity comes. We're going on a 3-week journey. This series we've called If Money Told. And I want to invite you to come on that journey with us. Keep those big boy and big girl pants on if you need to. And come on this journey with us, because I can tell you, I've never once met anybody who's ever regretted switching over or transitioning over to managing their money the way Jesus instructs us to. In fact, the only people that I've heard regret it is people that have regretted they didn't do it sooner.
Thank you guys so much for helping us reach and build into more people around the globe. If you'd like to continue supporting us, the details can be found below. If you're going through anything in life, which we all do, and you'd like some prayer requests, feel free to head over to our app. Everything's confidential. Leave us a message and we'll go from there. Thanks guys so much for joining us at our Elevate online experience. We really hope you took something out of it. I sure did. Enjoy the week and God bless.